So we are going to do a quick video lesson on methods and functions in Google Spreadsheets. So a method or a function is a really simple idea, and we've actually already used one in this spreadsheet, which is the result of our video lesson on variables. So if you go back to that video, if you watched it, you may remember that I wanted to keep track of the hours that 3 employees, Tom, Sue, and Joe, acquired over the course of a week at the business that I run. Now, Tom worked a different number of hours every day. So in order to find out what I had to pay him, I wanted to add all those hours up. Now, the formula I started writing was something along the lines of this: equals hours in D7 plus the hours in D8 plus the hours in D9. And you can see that this gets really redundant quite quickly, and also makes my formula quite long. And you can imagine, too, what if instead of having 5 entries, I had 500? There's got to be a more efficient way. The general rule of thumb on a computer is if you're doing something twice, you're doing it wrong. So we found a more efficient way, and I wrote in D13, this cell, a function call. So I wrote equals the sum of, and then I put parentheses, all the numbers from D7 to D11. So this is a range, and then this piece is a function call. You'll even notice that when I click on it, I have this little pop-up window come up that explains what the method should look like in its form, an example of how it might be used. It gives you a summary of how it works, and then even describes the things that are sent to it, which are called parameters. So this is a function that takes in parameters. Now, there are other functions that don't take in parameters. For example, I could type in pi, and it just gives me pi back. It's a pretty useful function. Some take parameters, like the function sum, or, for instance, the function or method. By the way, I'll use the words function and method somewhat interchangeably. But let's say I wanted the average of a few numbers. Well, I could take a range and get the average of the hours that Tom worked, 4.6. I could also just type some numbers in here. I'd say, what is the average of 3, 6, and 9? Now, the answer I know should be 6, and there it is. So these methods of functions are hugely valuable and absurdly useful, and very ubiquitously used in Google Sheets. But you might be asking, well, how do I even know what functions there exist? So there's a couple ways. First of all, you may notice when I started typing anything into a cell after the equal sign, and remember the equal sign is a signal to Google Sheets that I'm going to try to embed some code or some script in it. As soon as I type any letter, so let's take S for instance, a whole menu of functions pop up. So you can see there's a function slope. It tells me how to get the slope of a line, or square root of a positive number, or sort rows and columns, or skewness of a data set. Let's try a different letter. P. Let's see, capitalizes each word in a specified string. Number of permutations for a number of objects. Price of a security paying periodic interest. So there are tons and tons and tons of functions and methods. Now, a better way to get this full list is to look them up. So if you go to the help menu up here, there is a link to a function list, which I'm not going to go to right now because it is long. But in it, it'll list all kinds of functions that you may be interested in. If there's something in particular you're trying to find, I found the easiest way to find out if it exists. For instance, suppose you wanted to get the standard deviation of a data set. You want to know if Google Sheets can do that. The easiest thing is to Google Sheets and standard deviation, or go to the function list, hit Control F to bring up the find menu, and search for that way. It just so happens, by the way, that standard deviation is a function, standard dev, and it tells you just put in a set of numbers, and the standard deviation of Tom's workdays was 2.3 hours. So pretty cool. Now, let's show a neat combination of working with variables and functions together. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this data set and give it a name. So you might remember in the variables video we named ranges. So I'm going to add a named range, and I'm going to call this weekly. Let's just call it week pay, let's say. So what I want to do is I want to look up a person in the weekly pay and find out how many hours they had on a particular day. So rather than pouring through this big, giant, immense table, I can have the computer do it for me. So I'm going to do a horizontal lookup right now. So equals H lookup. And click on the little window. And a horizontal lookup searches across the first row of a data range for a key, and then returns the value of a specified cell in the column found. So what that means is, first thing is the thing I want to look for. Well, I want to look for Tom. I want to know what he's been up to and how many hours he's putting in. Then the next piece. Now, watch what happens when I type this comma. It advances inside the tooltip, the pop-up window, to help me explain what I need to do. It says, range, where are you going to look? Oh, I want to look into that big table up here. But I can't select it right now. That tooltip's in the way. Fortunately, though, I gave it a name a moment ago, so I can just type in that name. Week pay. That's the name of that data set. Now, the next thing is the index. What position do you want to look at? So the index is going to tell you how far down I want to go when I get to Tom. So I'll look across the top of the row, and when I find Tom, I'll start working my way down. The index tells me where. So the row index of the value to be returned, where the first row in range is numbered 1. All right, so that means if I want to get where he was on Monday, I would put in 2. And lastly, those square brackets here tell me that this parameter is actually optional. I don't have to put it in. Usually it's nice when you're doing a lookup to do it. So it indicates whether the row to be searched, so the first row in this case, is sorted. And in that case, it's not sorted, so I'm going to write false. Okay, so there's my H lookup. So this is asking how many hours Tom worked on Monday. 5 hours. Now, what if I didn't want to check him out on Monday? What if I wanted to find out where he was on, say, Tuesday? I change it to a 3, 2 hours. It gives me his updated information. Now, combining functions like this with other variables is really useful as well. So instead of putting this number there, I could say instead day index, which doesn't exist yet. That's not a thing. So I'm going to get a little bit of an error. But what I could do then is put something like this. Hourly rate, let's say day index. And we'll put number 3 in there. And then let's name this day index. And this should reset. Oh, maybe not. It doesn't like something right now. Make sure I spelled everything correctly. I think I did. Let's just try tricking it by typing it in again. No, it really doesn't like it. So I'm not sure what's going on right there. Let's try one more little trick. So I'm going to take it out entirely, put it back in. There we go. So sometimes best advice on a computer is if it's not working, just try doing it again, restart, reset. So in this case, I got a little confused because I tried to refer to a variable that wasn't there yet. But you can see now it's working. The nice thing is I can change this index pretty quickly. I can put it to 2. Whoops. 1 is the row, of course, that we started indexing. 2 is Monday. 3 is Tuesday. Now, again, I can combine these and actually say drag this across. Instead of using Tom here, what if I said I want to look up this name, which, by the way, this is kind of silly because a lookup function, the whole point of a lookup function would be to find Tom, not to put him in. But I could drag this across and then look up anybody on a given day. So, for instance, if I just wanted to get a day in snapshot, I could say, what did Monday look like? And it'll tell me what everybody did on Monday. So, a little bit of a combination of variables and methods, but hopefully that was a quick introduction for you. And I will see you in the next video.